What's going on, everybody? It's your boy J Main, back checking in with the people, back with another review. I'm talking that HBO's The Last of Us episode 2. Let's get right into it. We're not wasting no time, and I promise this episode review will not be as long as the last one. One, because the episode wasn't as long, and two, I ain't take as many notes. We gonna get straight into it though. Listen, they start the episode off with a flashback. But this time, we're not going all the way back to 1968. This time, we're actually going back 2 days before the start of the outbreak, at least from what we saw from Joel and Sarah's perspective. And that's September 24th, 2003, but we're in Jakarta, Indonesia. Now, if that location sounds familiar, it's because back in the first episode, Joel and Sarah overheard on the radio while they were eating breakfast that there's been a bunch of disturbances in Jakarta, Indonesia. And so now it looks like they're taking us to the actual location where the disturbances are. We come across this lady who's kind of like chilling in a restaurant or a diner, and she's having some food to eat. And these officers come up on her and they're like, you gotta come with us. She's looking just as confused as us. We don't know who this lady is. We don't know what she did. Everybody in the restaurant is like, what the hell is going on? So she's in the back of the car, the police car, and they're like, are you Ibu Ratna? Like I believe that's how you pronounce her name. And they're like, are you the professor of mycology, which is the study of fungi? And she's like, yeah, that's me, but I don't think I got the right person. Like, what do y'all want with me? And it's like, come with us, we'll show you. So they bring her to this facility and they have her examine, these cordyceps on through a microscope, excuse me. And she's like, yeah, what about them? Like, I know what these are. I've studied these, pretty much my whole life. And they're like, well, these came from a human. And she's like, not possible. Like, cordyceps can't live in humans. As we learned in the first episode, the doctors was talking about infections and fungi. And she's like, they don't live in humans. But could it be now with the global warming taking place that, they mutated and able to survive in humans? And so since she's still like really not believing her, they show her to the actual infected that they got this from. And it's this woman, she's dead on a bed and she's like laying down, but they have her go in to look at her. And, you can see the bite mark on this lady's leg, and she cuts open the bite mark and sees that it's, it's all infected inside. She opens up the infected's mouth. In this dead infected lady's mouth are the tendrils. And these are the tendrils we've seen in episode 1, where it looks like that is what the infected are using to, transfer or transport the virus to each other, as well as connect to one another. And so she sees it, but it's like the tendrils in this dead infected lady are still moving. So like they're like still alive. It seems like they're still like active, or maybe like looking for a host or something like that. So she gets all creeped out. She drops her tools and she just jets out of the room. And the officer's like, look, we know you studied this stuff. We just need some help. We need some advice. What should we do about this? And she's just asking questions like, where did this happen? And we learned that, this was a worker inside of a flower factory. So that could explain how grandma got infected if this flower somehow made its way to America and, grandma was eating things made out of flour, like the biscuits, what I'm saying? Like those buttery biscuits that they were trying to offer Sarah and Joel in the beginning. That could have been a reason too why grandma didn't want to eat them dry ass biscuits too. She like, listen, there's something in this. I don't want it, but she couldn't really talk. So in the flour factory is where this lady was working. The attack happening at the factory, and there's a bunch of workers missing. They can't find who bit this lady. So it's like, it's chaos a little bit, but it's on a smaller scale. 2 days prior to the events of, the beginning of the show, they're like, we need to come up with like a vaccine or some type of medicine to help get rid of this. And this lady is like, I'm gonna keep it 1,000 with you. Ain't no vaccine. Ain't no vaccine. Ain't no medicine. It's pretty much over. Like they are not prepared for something like this to happen, because it was always believed that these type of fungi cannot live within a human body. He's like, so what should we do? And she's like, I'm gonna be real, bomb. And that part was like, it was like creepy but fire at the same time, because it's like that helpless moment that you have when like shit is over. And that was like the look on her face. And then she was just like, bomb the city and everybody in it. Because if you want to stop the spread or slow it down, that's your only option right now. We can't come up with no cure. We ain't got no cure. We ain't got no medicine. You're gonna have to bomb the city in order to stop the spread of this. And she's like, can I go home now to be with my family? And that's how they start the episode. They 2 for 2 with intros on this show, just giving you more backstory about the infected, how it could have mutated to live inside humans, the location of where it began, whether you want to call it like patient 0 or the first area where the outbreak happened. This is the type of stuff that we didn't really get in the games that I love to see that they're expanding on. And even if they do like a Last of Us Part 3, I hope we get even more information about the spread of the virus, where it started, and maybe even one day figuring out, like what is the cause of all of this. But then we get back to the 3 Musketeers: Joel, Ellie, and Tess. Now, Ellie's asleep in this portion of the episode, and she's like waking up, and she's looking around a little bit confused, kind of probably like not used to waking up in a random location. And all you see is Joel and Tess like sitting behind Ellie with their guns like ready to go, just in case Ellie like turns. So they still on edge after finding out she tested positive to be infected. They're still on edge waiting to see if something happens. But overnight, nothing happens. So they're talking and stuff like that, cracking jokes and stuff. Well, at least Ellie is kind of being a little bit witty as they're trying to ask her questions and stuff. And Tess basically just wants to know, like, what is the big deal between you and Marlene? Why does she want you? Why does she want us to bring you to the Fireflies and for you to go and meet up with them? And even though Marlene promised Ellie to not tell no one, she ends up telling them, and she tells them that the Fireflies pretty much have some doctors out west, and they believe that she is the key for the cure. And Joel is like, bullshit. I mean, this man has been living through this for 20 years, and he's probably heard over 1,000 times that they found a vaccine or they found a cure for this infection. They're going about their ways. They're actually outside now, downtown Boston. The scenery looks absolutely beautiful. And what's also a nice nod is that we actually get to see this location in the daytime. And the game, when you're playing, it's nighttime, it's rainy, so you can't really see much of the details of this area. But I thought they did a fantastic job in this downtown Boston area. You can actually see, and they mention it in the show, some like craters in the ground, because Tess, as she explained in the Ellie, these are cities that were bombed by the government to slow down the spread of the virus, like we heard about the lady in Jakarta. They come across like a fork in the road, I guess you can call it, and they're thinking about whether to take the short route or the long route. Of course, the short route has infected, or otherwise it would be a no-brainer, but the longer route is probably more safe, just longer. So they all decide, let's just go the long route. Let's be as safe as possible. And they come across a hotel. They get into the hotel, and Ellie is like joking around. She acts like she's checking in and stuff like that. And this was a part in the game. And this is also a part where I thought Bella Ramsey did a great job as Ellie. And I feel like in these type of moments where she's like mimicking or reenacting moments from the game, she does a great job. It's more so like when she's off on new dialogue or new sets where I feel like it's a little bit iffy. But I thought for the most part in this episode, she's trending more in the positive direction as, her depiction of Ellie and her acting. They get to an area where, of course, Joel and Tess seem to be used to this path, but it seems like the floors may have collapsed in, and it's not like a straight path to get through. So they gotta use somebody to boost. They gotta boost somebody up so they can get on the other side and free up some doors so that they can get through. That infamous Sony boost. They added it to the actual show. If you ain't familiar, the Sony boost, mostly all of PlayStation games have a section where the main character is lifting up somebody else to help them get over a wall, up a cliff, or something like that. They had a scene like that in the show. Ellie wanted to do it. She's like, I'm small, I can get through. But Tessa's like, nah, if something happens to you, then we ain't got no deal. That way, if I or Joel go, if something happens to one of us can continue the mission. So, Tess is lifted up over. She's, working and doing her business. And Joel and Ellie are like bonding a little bit. They're like talking. Ellie's asking her some questions, where he's from. But then she starts to pry a little bit too much. And Joel's like, all right, no more questions. But you can see like Joel opening up a little bit, Ellie being a little bit more receptive to having a conversation with him and actually, trying. Tess finds a way, opens up a door, and they're walking through this hotel. and they come up on this like balcony area. And on this in this area, you see there's a whole bunch of infected, like just down, waiting, just waiting for anybody to come in that area, and they gonna pounce. So that seems like that was gonna be the way that they went, but obviously they're not gonna go that way. It looked like at least 100 of them infected was down there. But if you looked real closely, you can see like they're almost like moving in unison. And Ellie's like, why does it seem like they're like connected? And Tessa's like, more than you know. They're connected more than you know. So they're explaining to her how they're like connected through the cordyceps and how these things, the tendrils and stuff, are growing underground, and it's like a whole network. And we're learning more about the tendrils and this whole infected network. And like this episode, I'm gonna be honest, it 100% sold me on the tendril system. I was skeptical when I heard that no spores were going to be, or at least in season 1, they were going to have no spores. But I think this tendril system is absolute fire. They're like, we can't go that way. We got to take another route. Joel's like, let's go to the museum. Outside of the museum, there's like these cordyceps vines or tendril vines. And Joel's like, kind of like messing with it, like cracking it open and stuff like that. And he sees that it's bone dry. These cordyceps vines are running through areas, and this is how they're communicating and staying connected to each other while they're in certain areas and stuff. So this being bone dry is a good thing, because that means there's no like active infected in the area that they're going to, and they don't have to worry about like, stepping on it or something like that. Ellie stumbles across somebody that looked like they were freshly murdered. Like you could still see red blood on them. It looks fresh, but it don't look like a normal infected like kill. This looks like some type of beast or animal attacked whoever this guy was. Immediately, Joel and Tess, they start like talking real quiet. So clearly they know what's up with whoever did this or whatever did this. But Ellie, she's kind of like talking normal, like, damn, like what the hell happened to him? And they're like, yo, chill. Like from this point forward, we are silent. Like we are quiet. Because they know what's up. They know what's coming next or what could be around the corner. They're creeping around this hotel, and these floors just collapse on them as they're like walking through this door. And so they get to a central area in the hotel, the museum, where there's a lot of displays, old artifacts and things like that. And they out of nowhere, they see a clicker. They did an absolute fantastic job on the CGI or the makeup with these clickers, because they look spot on. And the actors that they got to play the clickers with the movement and stuff like that, 100% believable. Joel and Tess, they're like quiet. Like they can't see you, but they can hear. They have great hearing. These type of infected have echolocation. So they let out this kind of like scream, and within that radius of the scream, if you're like, if you're close to them, they can figure out where you are by, bouncing sound off walls and stuff. All that wild shit that like bats do. It's 2 infected now at this point. So 2 infected they're sneaking around, trying to get around them. Now it's all out mayhem. They running all over the place, hiding. Ellie's like crawling under this, this display case. Joel is, moving around trying to get to area. He knocks something over to cause a little bit of distraction so he can hide. So Joel is like hiding behind one of the displays, and the infected clicker, is like looking for him now at this point. So he takes out his gun, and the camera like pans to Joel reloading his gun. And this part was so fire to me, because it's like, like as somebody who played the game, what's gonna happen, but it's still creepy. Like it's still a tense moment. And so the camera pans to Joel reloading his gun. You're like, boy, if you drop any bullet, it's over. It is over. So they pan to him, but the clicker's like far back. It's not even like that close, but they're fast. When Joel actually finished reloading his gun, the camera like pans a little bit so you can see where the clicker's at. And the clicker's literally dead in his face, like literally right on the side of him. He sees Ellie. He goes up to her. He's like, yo, follow me. We're going to go this way. So they're sneaking around, and Joel steps on a piece of glass. They're infected. The clicker's alerted. Clicker jumps over the display on top of him. Ellie gets bit again in the process. Joel is shooting his gun at it. He takes one down, and then here comes the second infected. The second clicker is running at him, and Tess hops up out of nowhere with a axe, hits the infected in the head, and then Joel, guns it down with the assault rifle. they gather themselves. They heading out. Tess, Joel's making sure everybody's okay. Tess is like, oh, just a little sprained ankle. I'll be all right. So they're walking out shortly after at the state building, but it's quiet. It's real quiet. Like, they're like, yo, where the hell is everybody? There's nobody here. So they're looking around. Nobody there. They see like this trail of blood leading into inside the building. So they make their way inside the building and they're all dead. They're all dead. All the Fireflies that were there waiting are dead. And, they're wondering like, what the hell happened? And you can see that one of them was infected. And so, of course, it's infected versus the non-infected. And they probably had a war fight. Dead. Tess is pissed off. She's like looking around for more information, trying to see if there's a radio she can communicate with somebody. Because clearly she wants to make the trade so that they can get the supplies that they need. Joel's like, you know what? Let's just cut our losses and let's head back. Tess is like, ain't no going back, dog. Like, ain't no going back. It's over. Like, this is over for me here. Ellie's like, oh shit. And sure enough, during that clicker encounter, Tess was bitten. She shows that she had got bit on the neck, and it's over for her at this point. Like, a matter of time before she starts to turn. One of the people that were on the floor that turned or were infected, they start to wake up and move and try to like attack him. Joel shoots him and kills him. But when that happened, the tendrils that I mentioned earlier that are like growing underground, they actually get active and start to communicate with the other infected that were back at the hotel. So now, all of a sudden, it's hundreds of infected coming towards them in this state building. They look outside. Joel's like, listen, we got like a minute before they get here. Tess is like, I'm not going to turn into one of them things. Let me be a distraction so y'all can get out of here. But she starts to like open up these barrels and they got like gasoline in them. So she's pouring the gasoline all over the floor, grenades, all types of stuff. She's like, y'all get out of here. I'm going to be a distraction and I'm going to buy y'all some time. Joel grabs Ellie. Ellie's like, no, we're not leaving her. Like, this is not right. We can't just leave her here to die. And Joel's like, get your ass and let's go. Like, Joel is very like, this is the situation. This is the solution. Like, he ain't really into his feelings too much these days because he just deals with the facts. He deals with reality at this point. Meanwhile, Ellie, she's probably a little bit more emotionally connected still at this point. She's not about leaving people behind. Now it's just Tess, and she's waiting. She's waiting for the infected to come in. She has her lighter. That way, once they come through, she can set the gasoline on fire and blow this whole shit up. The infected are running past her. They're running past her. And I'm like, oh shit, she's infected already. So that makes sense. And so they're running past her as more and more are coming in. But then one of them stopped. One of them stopped and start to look at her. And it's like walking towards her. And she's like almost like stuck in a trance almost. And this infected starts to, tendrils start coming out of his mouth. And it gets close up on Tess. And he's like literally tongue kissing Tess. But clearly you see that he's like putting his tendrils in her mouth to connect her because she's already infected. So their goal is not to like, kill infected. They're trying to get connected. They want to be a big network, almost like a hive mind. And so she's trying to like set the lighter off and she can't do it. Like, it's not like her motor skills are not letting her set the lighter off. So she's like trying. All while this infected is like shoving his tendrils down her throat. She's trying. Then she like slows down calmly and she finally gets the lighter to go. She drops the lighter and boom, blows up the whole state building and takes all of those infected out with her. In the game, when she dies, it's Fedra soldiers that come up on them and she uses herself as a distraction. In this version of the show, it's infected. And I think I actually like this version better because I like the tendril system better. And what they showed when the tendrils connected from that dead infected on the floor to the ones that were back at the hotel, they move in packs. And so once one is alerted, they all start going and they running. They're not walking slowly. They ain't zombies. They are running to wherever they were alerted at. You can see Joel and Ellie outside the state building as the explosion goes off. Tess she told Joel, take Ellie to Bill and Frank's. They'll know what to do with her. This was another good episode so far. They're 2 for 2. It was dope as hell because I'm watching the show with my wife and she's asking me like, so what's different from the game and the show? And I'm like, yeah, it's like the main story is the same, but I love all the little things that they're changing. They're giving more detail to certain aspects about where the infection started, taking you to that location, the tendril system where, you know, it's not spores, but it is another way that the infection can be spread, as well as how they communicate and stuff like that. So things like that I thought were dope. Tess, the way she dies, I thought this way was better than in the game because it showed more about the infected and how they're connected, and then how like she was like stuck in a trance. It's almost as if like the infection that was in her body was causing her not to move, but then since it wasn't fully spread, she was like still able to control part of her body, which was trying to light the lighter. Next episode looks like we're going to be learning about Bill and Frank head to Billstown, one of my favorite portions of the game. Of course, rate the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Leave down in the comment section what y'all thought about episode 2. If you thought it was better than episode 1, worse, about the same. And I'll catch y'all in my next video. Peace.